Okay. Should I start? Okay.
So very good evening to you all. Sri Kumar Swami Mahavidyalaya Avsa.
Yes. Shall I
Chief
begin?
Organizer of the International E-Conference, Honorable Dr. M. Betkar sir. I also welcome all those dear attendees. The topic for today's presentation is speaking our tune. Yes, sir. I am audible.
Okay. Thank you so much. Oh. Shall I begin? Yeah. Thank you so
Yes,
much
ma'am.
for having me.
Yes. Welcome. Yes.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. I'm Meg Stafford. I'm a 16-time literary award winner, speaker, and storyteller, featured on our public television's Stories from the Stage. As an award-winning author of 2 memoirs, I've also garnered a great deal of life experience and insight into the human condition from my 40 years of practice as a licensed psychotherapist. I was sitting with my client, who I had known for several months. Her daughter was going to be joining us for the first time. My client's husband, her daughter's father, had died when the daughter was a baby, and she had never learned how he had died. I can still see the two of them, the 2 women sitting side by side on my flowered love seat in my office. It was a sunny day, and the light filtered through the windows of my small corner office, creating a warmth to the room. They were facing each other partially while also facing me. I was quiet and could feel the tension in the room, and I slowed my own breathing down to set a tone of calm acceptance. They had worked hard from depression and anxiety, and she was troubled by not knowing this very delicate part of her history. She was in contact with her father's family and saw them regularly. Her mother had remarried and had 3 more children. She felt included and loved by them, but she was still very bothered by this gap, and she was finally ready to hear the truth. I could see the determined look in her eye, in addition to her resolute conviction that she was ready, and I could see the love and concern on her mother's face. She wanted this to go well. I assured them both that we were here because the daughter had made clear that she was ready for this, that she needed it, that the not knowing was causing her more difficulty than whatever she was about to learn. She had reached the crossroads where continuing on as she had been was more difficult than whatever she would find out. The mom took a deep breath and revealed that her first husband, her daughter's father, had died by suicide. I heard the daughter take in a breath and slowly exhale. There were quiet tears running down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. She cried silently for a few minutes, and her mother took her hand. As they sat together, the mother moved closer to her, putting her arm around her, and the daughter allowed this. She was willing to lean into the comfort. Then the daughter said something which had not occurred to me. "You know," she began, "I had already figured out that it either had to be suicide or homicide, because if it had been cancer or some other illness, you would have told me by now. And if it had been a car accident, there would have been clippings in the newspaper. So I had narrowed it down to these two possibilities, and now I know the truth I have so needed to know." It was out in the open, and no one melted, no one became hysterical or angry, all of which might have been a possibility. Never have I been present for a moment quite as raw as this one. I felt the weight of this honor and privilege to be a part of this exchange, to have created the space that would allow this to happen safely. It was clear to me that it needed to happen, but I could not know how it would go, particularly as I did not really know the daughter. I was just certain that the time was right, and that my underlying belief that the truth is better in the open than hidden from view would hold true even in this most tender of circumstances. I learned from the daughter's therapist from this point, she continued to gain confidence, to become clear about what she wanted to do with her life, how she wanted to live. The not knowing about this very crucial issue had so consumed her that she had had a hard time moving forward in her life and had turned her questioning inward, not knowing if she could trust herself. This very painful truth set her free and enabled her to incorporate the sadness, but stop the wondering, the ruminating, and the questioning self-doubt. Of course, her mother had not been withholding the information to be hurtful. She had thought it was the right thing to do. She believed that protecting her from this sadness was what was needed. In subsequent meetings, we talked a lot about this and about how she might handle other situations in the future. Painful truths allow us to be human, to grieve, to let in the difficulties, and to learn from them. Without the truth, we are faced with uncertainty and wondering, which takes up a huge amount of internal and emotional space, often making it difficult to make decisions of any kind or even to know what's important to us. Many people are reluctant to speak up about what's true for them for fear of offending the other person, hurting their feelings, igniting an explosion which could turn violent, or being met with a silence which can be just as crushing. As humans, the goal is not to eliminate conflict. That's just simply not possible. The goal is to be able to navigate the disagreements as smoothly as possible. The clearer we are able to be about what we think and feel, the better position we're in to calmly convey this to another person, confident that we'll be heard. The satisfaction that comes with speaking what we believe and feel is immeasurable and brings many happy returns in the way of feeling closer to the person with whom we are interacting, more self-confidence, all of which leads to better communication and a repeat of this very positive cycle. On the flip side, if we do not speak our honest truths, we tend to become resentful, angry, and irritable, and we push away people with our irritability, and worst of all, we become annoyed and impatient with ourselves. It is impossible to hold generous space for others if we cannot hold it for ourselves. As we learn to live with the discomfort of having challenging conversations, we extend a bridge to other people, welcoming them across that bridge, letting them know that no matter how troubled the waters may seem, there is always a way across. I was never so angry at my parents as when my cousins and aunt and uncle were in a car accident and they didn't tell me right away. I was 19 in college and I had been planning to go home for the weekend anyway. When I arrived home, my other grandparents, my father's parents, were there. They lived 80 miles away, they didn't drive, and they didn't travel spontaneously, so I knew that something was wrong. I didn't know what until my parents told me about the accident, including the fact that my uncle had died and the funeral had been that morning. My parents had debated about telling my sister and me right away, but ultimately were worried about our driving if we knew ahead of time, so they waited until we arrived home. I was livid that I had been deprived of the opportunity to attend the service and connect with my relatives. There was no way to redo this experience, and I understood on some level that they were trying to protect us in some way. But they also inadvertently sent the message that they didn't have faith that we could make our own decisions about whether to drive or whether to find an alternative way home. They took the choice away from us. A lot of heated discussions ensued from this, and it is a lesson I think about and continue to apply in real time. I know they had learned from it too, as they had never seen me so upset, and they made an effort to let me know when there was difficult news. On the other side of this, one of the most difficult calls I have received and am still grateful for, and had the opportunity weeks, and was literally it was important for me to hear, and she did not want me to learn by hearing it on the radio or seeing it on television. I went into my appointment teary, but still appreciative of the fact that my colleague and friend had thought enough of me to make that most painful call. How do I see this in my therapy practice? I see examples all the time and love to work with people to create the shift to speak up and speak from the heart where connections are made and everyone wins. Let me give you some examples. One man had been resentful of his wife, feeling that she did not listen to him or take his opinion into account on matters that he had initially downplayed and considered not important. For instance, she would ask what restaurant he would like to go to for his birthday, and then she would dismiss each idea and suggest one of her own, and he would accede because he didn't want to make waves. But with this pattern repeating over time, his resentment grew to the point where he exploded, threatening that they should divorce. This over-the-line demand should never be uttered, except in a discussion where it really is something that the couple is considering. It should never be thrown out in anger or as a threat, and was in fact the furthest thing from his mind and heart. He was hurt, and it was coming out of anger. He pushed his wife further away, the exact opposite of what he truly wanted. He is not otherwise a shy person, and it is understandable that she would not assume that he had been holding back. To both of their credit, they returned to the discussion, and he was able to very calmly bring up about how he was disappointed about not being considered at times like his birthday, especially as he goes out of his way to make her day feel special. His wife was able to hear him and understood why his feelings were hurt, and she promised to compromise more. She hadn't realized that she would steer discussions away from his suggestions and that he would regularly acquiesce. This discussion led to greater connection and understanding between them, and I'm hoping to an ongoing practice of their taking the time to listen to each other, even while raising their 3 young children. I'll give you some more examples in a moment. Speaking up and saying what is on my mind or in my heart is not something that has always come easily to me. I continue to be grateful to my dad that I felt no fear disagreeing with him. I knew for certain that it would not threaten him or our relationship, and that he would be honest with me. What a gift. It was out and over quickly, for the most part. was not as straightforward with my mom. She would get teary and pouty, and then I felt responsible to calm her down. Not what I needed when I wanted to get something off my chest. The urge to deliver my message was strong, though, and I worked out a way to get my point across without making her defensive. There had been a time when she wanted to talk to me about her marriage. This was very uncomfortable for me. I wanted to be there for her, but as a teenager and her daughter, I could not be the one to listen to issues concerning my own dad. I finally had to say something to let her know that it was too uncomfortable for me. I thought about it for a long time, and I was not angry when I approached her. I just knew deep down that I had reached my limit and needed for her to find someone else to help her. Score. Yes, it was an effort, but worth it, not to have it eating me up inside. I became more skilled at it, and she also learned how to listen and know that I was not out to attack. I just wanted to be understood. Valuable life lessons that I continue to employ with my own family and friends. And of course, there were times when it got more heated, or when I walked away in a huff, certain that my parents were just loons themselves and didn't know anything. Back to my therapy practice, reluctance to speak up can come in many ways and forms, sometimes seemingly minor or trivial, but indicative of an underlying fear. I had a client who was making a payment to me of $60 via the Square app, and I handed her my iPad to sign. When she returned it to me, I noticed that it actually said $600. I exclaimed that the total had an extra zero, and she said, "Yeah, I know, but I didn't want to say anything." I was so taken aback, and I was immediately made aware of her deep fear of stating what she was noticing. When I asked, she said she didn't think that I was intentionally overcharging her and couldn't say what she felt that I would do, but it made clear to me that she was not accustomed to having her voice heard. And of course, it took a little more effort to create a whole new invoice than it would have been to just correct it right then in the moment. It's so typical of the way that it goes. The longer something sits without being addressed, the more it expands. The incident provided an opportunity to talk about what it was like for her growing up with older brothers who took center stage and parents who did not notice her lack of contributing her opinions or ideas. They were not intentionally cruel, but they were not paying close enough attention. We have an opportunity as parents to offer ways for our children to practice hearing their own voices, really getting to know who they are and what they think. We have the opportunity to ask them opinions about movies they see, books they've read, experiences they've had. The idea is not to put them in charge of others, but to give them ample opportunity to talk about what's important to them and give them choices so that they can practice tuning into their own thoughts and feelings. The choices have to be genuine without making a difference to us. For instance, if we ask a child if they would like to use the green cup or the yellow one, it doesn't matter to us and they're free to choose. If we ask them where they would like to have ice cream, we need to follow through with that. Or if we do something together, we can ask how they liked the park they visited or what they thought of a new food. And this, on an ongoing basis, trains them to really know who they are and what they think and feel. And it can impact choices as small as what kind of bread they want to buy, to what kind of work they want to do, what kind of partner they might want to live with. So it's that small, repeated way of getting to know ourselves that makes a difference in the long run. Not speaking up can have small but repeated consequences. I had a client who was 10 minutes late to our meeting because she had stopped to get coffee, and although she saw people coming in after her, getting their orders before her, she didn't say anything until 6 or 7 more people had picked up their orders. She hadn't wanted to offend the people working there. She finally asked, and her order had just been forgotten. It wasn't intentional, it wasn't personal, and she had wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt, but ended up losing time at our appointment because she was hesitating to speak up. We talked about the fact that she didn't need to be rude. She just was honest, just asking. She realized that she was often reluctant to speak up for fear of upsetting people, but was able to see that in this case, the people there had as much of an interest in her getting what she wanted and needed as she did. They wanted her to be pleased with their service and with their store. It wasn't selfish of her to ask. It was good business for them, too. They would want to know. Ghosting is one of what I consider one of the very worst forms of non-truth telling. It is the coward's way out and can be so very hurtful, as anyone who has experienced it can tell you. We were buying, and this is, as I'm sure you know, this is when you're in communication with someone and then all of a sudden they just stop responding. We had been buying a car and had been communicating with the seller. We had arranged our schedules and had set up a time to meet, and we were waiting for an address that just never came. Very annoying and unnecessary. One quick text to say, sorry, it's been sold, would have been all it would have taken, and we could have just moved on much more quickly. Our daughter, who we were helping out with buying the car, said, this had just happened to her with the dating world, where, again, it would be so much easier if someone could just send a text saying, I don't want to continue dating now. This extra 10 seconds to send the text can save someone hours of angst and frustration. Absolutely, it can be disappointing, but that is something that we can all wrap our arms around. We can learn to move forward. It is the not knowing that's so destructive. And no is not a dirty word. It's a way of conveying information that something's not possible, which is very important. It's just a part of communication. It allows a person to change gears, secure what they need elsewhere. It doesn't have to hold a charge or a challenge or anything hurtful. It's just a fact. Absolutely, it can be disappointing to be told no about anything, things large and small, but we're all built to be able to incorporate and move on from disappointment. We are resilient, creative beings. How does one convey information that is important or messages in a way that messages can be received? The good news is that this is absolutely possible to learn. Curiosity is on our side, and the more we make use of it, the less likely it is that we will offend anyone. Just asking for information is important, and anyone can understand this. Often the most personal questions can be asked in a curious way and will produce honest, straightforward answers. In addition, challenging conversations are about both the teller and the receiver. Excuse me. Truth-telling honors the receiver. It is a way of saying, I respect you. I believe that you can handle the truth, and you are important enough to me to tell you that. I had been meeting with a client yesterday, actually, and she was recounting a story where it had been her birthday, but she was having an argument with her 17-year-old son who wanted her to buy him an expensive sports car. And she couldn't afford it and was worried about him driving such a fast car anyway. And they were going back and forth, and it got very heated because this was a discussion that had happened numerous times over time. It was a little later in the day, and the 17-year-old must have remembered that it was her birthday, and he came downstairs and said to her, "Happy birthday." And so this is an instance where the message and the tone do not match up. And it's important the way we speak and the way we tell our truths is just as important as the words that we're saying. It's something as simple as "how are you" can be said how are you? That makes us feel offended. That's not someone who really wants to know. That's someone who sounds annoyed. If someone says, hey, how are you doing? It conveys a much different idea. I want to teach you a technique that I learned at a workshop many years ago from Rich and Antra Borofsky. They are a couple, and they work with couples. And they taught this technique that, to hold this up, that I like to use this. It's a heart-shaped rock, but you can use any kind of weighted object. It can be a heart. It can be a river stone, or anything that you have nearby that has some weight to it, that reminds us that our words carry weight. And both people need to be prepared for this exercise. Both people need to be present, to be clearing space for the other person, sitting close together, looking at each other, eye to eye, and saying what they want to say in as loving and as straightforward a tone as possible. Speaking with an open heart and looking directly into the other person's eye. Imagine what it might have been like if the son had said, Mom, I really do wish you a happy birthday. She could receive it much differently than having it tossed at her saying, happy birthday. It's so when doing this exercise, and I have done it with people in my office, the person who is speaking holds the weight in their hand. They look at the other person and hand it to them, fold their hands over it, and they might, whatever it is, it might be, I understood that you felt ignored. When you didn't respond to me, I felt really hurt that you were ignoring me. The other person receives the weight, the full weight of the words, and may respond by saying, just repeating back, I understood that you felt ignored and hurt, and I'm sorry that you felt that way. It was not my intention. They might hand the rock back and fold their arms around it, and it lets each person know that they're taking this conversation seriously and that it's important. Just think how many hurt feelings could be avoided if people spoke in this intentional kind of way. When people receive information and say, yeah, whatever, it's like tossing the rock back. It can be hurtful, whether intended or not. It's certainly not practical for every conversation to be this deliberate, but if we use it as a template and think about what we're saying, then we're able to say what's on our minds with caring, respect, and trust that it will be received with the same intention. And we create the safety in communication, a place where truth can dwell with comfort, learning, and in the heart of connection. This is where everyone wins. Notes. Thank you. I have more examples if people would like, or happy to take questions. I don't know if there was anything unclear, but feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand if there's anything that didn't make sense or is not clear.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful explanation on the topic, speaking our truth where everyone wins. Now, I request dear participants, if you have any query, please come ahead, discuss with keynote speaker, Honorable Meg, ma'am. Dear participants.
Good evening, ma'am, and all of you. Thank you, respected Principal Dr. M. Ambedkar, sir, Prashant Ugade sir, and all organizing committee members. First of all, I congratulate chief organizers and resource person. Ma'am, your presentation is very nice. Your lecture is informative and knowledgeable. I hope topic is good and they are useful for us. I have one question. First question is, what are the benefits of speaking your truth? And second question is, what happens when you speaking your truth?
That's the benefits of speaking your truth are manifold, both for the person speaking it, the person speaking is able to get something off of her or his or her mind, because when it's held inside, like the husband in the situation that I discussed, it was bottled up, and after a time he just exploded in a way that he really didn't intend. So speaking our truth makes sure that that doesn't happen. And also, when we're able to speak up, we can really connect to the other person. It really creates a bond, whether it's something positive that we want to convey about something we have appreciated, or even if it's something difficult. If we're able to bring it up in a positive way, we get it off our mind, we create another connection to the other person, and the other person can realize that they're important enough to receive this information, whether it is difficult news or something that's bothering the person that has spoken. Bringing it up honors the other person. So I feel that it's really vital in communication with everyone, the people who we're close to and that we love and live with, but even people that we work with and we see frequently. Being truthful leads to better communication all around.
Wonderful and excellent explanation, ma'am. Thank you so much, Dr. M.M. sir and ma'am.
My pleasure.
Myself, Dr. Pagare, I am asking one question. In political subject, in politics, the lie is a best, but in philosophical, it is a true is a value. So people are confused that time. Some politicians speak in lie, but it is also true. Why this difference between identification for person to person?
Let me make sure that I've understood the question. I think that you were asking about it's so like situations with politicians. Is that it's I think whenever it's an important topic, and I think if there is something that doesn't ring true, if we have the opportunity, then we can ask in a respectful a way as we can, if this particular thing is true. Do they mean it? This is what I understand. Is this what you intend to follow through with? But you're right. It is often a time when promises are made and it's not clear whether they ever had the intention of following through. But it's
साय नंबर 57 निसा नेपाळची इकडले.
I'm sorry?
Anybody else, please? Shukla sir, please.
Good evening, Dr. Bedkar sir, Prashant sir, and I think good morning for you, ma'am, over there. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I think that truthfulness is one of the basic virtue of the human mind and humankind. So I think, everyone should preserve that truthfulness. So I think, that in relations, the truthfulness is so important. If suppose I'm not truthful and I'm showing that I'm truthful, when the things get realized, you'll find the relations, there's a disaster in the relationships. So that is why the truthfulness, whatever may be let it may be very bitter, but we should declare it, and we should teach the children also to declare it, whatever the things happen. So many of the children, they're having a kind of a fear in their mind, what people will say, what teacher will say, what parents will say. Even in a medical college also, we are having so many things happening, but they are not reaching to us because of the fear, what they will say, and that is why the truthfulness will never get declared. It is not declared, but truthfulness is such a thing that it never remains, hidden. It comes out someday, and then it becomes more dangerous. So that is one thing. What thing you think about this? Please comment. And another one very important is, I'm from the medical field. I'm a doctor, and many of the time it happens that the patient is in a very critical stage in a bed. But still we keep motivating them. You are doing well, you will be improving, nothing to worry about. We are lying, plainly we are lying to the patient. Sometimes the patient may be realizing that my situation is deteriorating, but the doctor is giving hope and motivation. So should we consider it as a truth, what we can say, we are lying to the patient? And I'm not talking to the truth to the patient. Thank you.
So the first part, I agree with you that the truth has a way of coming out, and so I am an advocate almost always for bringing it out sooner rather than later, because the sooner you bring it out, the sooner everyone has the ability and the option to incorporate it and understand it. And usually the longer it goes hidden, the bigger the reaction to it. So it almost always has a way of seeping out, as you say. And if you are able to bring it out sooner, then you have more options and more control of it, rather than it just coming out and some unexpected way. So I absolutely agree with you. And really tricky in the medical world, because it's so a very delicate balance for physicians about how direct and how truthful to be with their patients, because how do you convey the honest situation while also trying for that person to have hope? Very, very tricky. But I worked in a hospital for a few years, actually, on a medical unit. And as you know, people vary in how they receive it. But I found that more people would want to know, like, you're going to have to be here for a week, rather than being told, oh, you can probably go home tomorrow. And then the next day, oh, you can probably go home tomorrow. You can probably go home tomorrow. It's more people, although it might be disappointing to find out you're going to be here for a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, they can at least prepare, rather than being told, oh, you'll be fine and you'll be home tomorrow. But it's difficult, because there were also people who were at the end of their lives, and some of them wanted very much to talk about it, and wanted to talk with their family, and other people did not want to acknowledge it at all. So I think it's very delicate as a physician to try and figure out where the person is, and give them as much truth as you can. So my inclination would always be to err on giving them more truth and know that they can handle that better than being disappointed.
Yeah, great explanation, ma'am. Thank you very much. And it is said that with a one lie, 1,000 lies we have to go with. So, to hide one lie, we talk 1,000 lies, So
Yes,
it is
very
better to
tiring.
talk one, you talk truthfulness, and you will win the heart of everyone. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Chetan Kumar sir, Meshram sir, please.
Very good morning to Meg
Good
ma'am,
morning. Yes.
respected Principal Bedkar sir, respected all participants. My voice is clear. I'm on the way to traveling.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
no
yes,
problem.
sir.
So I hope that the voice is clear.
Yes. No problem.
The topic, ma'am, you have chosen today and discussed in such a nice, lucid manner, I can say, that it is
you.
very difficult to hide truth. It is very difficult to hide the truth.
I agree.
And you spoken the meaning of universe. If someone want to hide the truth, he cannot or she cannot, because truth is something like just like a sun, just like a moon. You cannot hide the sun and moon. The sun and moon continuously go on rising. The time when come, automatically it rise. No one can stop sun to rise, and hence the same
Right.
truth follows. And now the topic you had chosen today is a need for the world politics. The world politics has changed the scenario of truth, and that's why it becomes time. And once if every person think about the human being nature, automatically it will be very good for the betterment of mankind if everyone stop lying the truth and start focusing the truth only. The whole world will change. You will change. A healthy environment will be there. So I think I must congratulate you and thank you very much for, especially Dr. Bedkar sir, who every day give us a new topic, and you support him by presenting your presentation with such a nice and a truth topic of the truth. So really, madam, I'm overwhelmed with your topic, and it is an innovative topic for today's, not for me, not for you, but for whole world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's I do feel it's important for everyone. And I also think that it would be a really great thing if kids had the opportunity. A lot of us don't grow up in families where difficult conversations are regularly had, where people can tell the truth. So I really think that schools, there's an opportunity for schools to help kids practice saying what they think and saying what they feel, so that they are used to it and carry it right on through adulthood. It's much simpler, much less complicated than having to untangle untruths later on. So I'm all for simplicity and directness, saving energy.
Thank you, Dr. Kendre sir, Pagare sir, Dr.
Thank you,
Sangupta
ma'am.
sir, and Chetan Kumar sir for nicely interaction with keynote speaker, Honorable Meg ma'am. Now I request the chief organizer of an international conference, the ideal principal of Sri Kumar Swami Mahavidyalaya Avsa, Honorable Dr. M. Betkar sir, to conclude the session, please sir.
Message.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Respected Dr. Betkar, sir, respected ma'am, and Prashant, sir. I'm very happy to hear here. Ma'am, my question is, what is the importance of truthfulness in our daily life?
Of truthfulness, the importance of truthfulness in our everyday life.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I believe that it is everything. It is being mindful and being truthful every day allows us to live a very full and rich life, and being able to connect with other people on a daily basis. When we are withholding our truths, it puts separation and distance between us and whomever we're not being truthful with. So I believe it is the way to live a life in the moment that is rewarding and promotes intimacy with other people and really getting to know others and ourselves. Which I like, that's sort of the part of the fundamentals of life. So in our home lives, in our work lives, even if we're at the store, it's a truthful interaction is much more meaningful than one that is unthinking or that contains untruths.
Hello, sir. I want to ask another question. Please give me permission. Ma'am, my another question is, when child at home, the parents teach him or her to speak lies sometimes. So, what's your opinion about it?
I think that creates difficulties for everyone. And I certainly have seen it a lot of times, particularly often when there are difficulties at home. When often if there are parents that have either a mental health issue or any kind of addiction issue, they may instruct the children that it's not really a problem. And this causes great difficulties for the children, because children want very much to listen to their parents and to believe their parents. If the parents are telling them that the sky has green and orange, they're going to look for that green and orange. And if there is something really wrong at home and they're telling the child that there isn't, it creates a lot of difficulty for the child, because they know that deep down they know that something's wrong, but they want to believe the parent that isn't something wrong. And it sets up a lot of internal questioning, because it doesn't make sense to them. They know something's wrong, but they're told it isn't wrong. So I feel that in this instance, even if it's something difficult, better to acknowledge it and say it, because then the child at least knows the truth. Like I don't know if you were here for my very first story about the young woman whose father had died, and they never told her why, and or not why, they never told her how. And even though it was really difficult for her to learn the truth about that, about his death by suicide, it was easier for her to incorporate that sadness than to not know and to be questioning why she wasn't being told. And so it's even when the truth is difficult, I believe that it is better for the children, often with children in a very simple form, but better than they're being told outright lies. But so it's difficult. I see a lot of those people. They grow up as having difficulty trusting their own opinion because it was so much in conflict with what they lived with when they were growing up.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. That's the, mm-hmm. Thank you. I hope to. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for being.
Thank you, sir,
having me.
for your precious words. Now I move towards the vote of thanks. Sri Kumaraswamy Mahavidyalaya Avsa, District Latur in Maharashtra State. As we know, all their participants were organizing an international conference as well as national conferences, World Record Series. It's my pleasure to say you, madam, that from last 1.5 years, we continuously running this international conference World Record Series without a single break. And it is only we are moving that our ideal, all those attendees who regularly join to the sessions, and we move towards with new topics, with new knowledge to provide each and everyone, those who are in the session or everyone. So I'm very, very thankful, madam, Meg, madam, you have paid your valuable time in today's session. The topic was very clear and it is very related closely to our heart, that speaking our truth. And as our principal sir has said that ma'am is a very good author, speaker, as well as psychotherapist. She is an executive coach. And ma'am have written many books, many articles about the different aspects about the happy life. And who will accompany you? It is a very famous book which we have published. And that is very, I think, a 5-star rating. The book is,
Thank you.
is there.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very happy that such a wonderful coach in front of us have presented a nice lecture upon the topic speaking our truths, highlighted some of the examples of her own life, your own life, and the real life story from your family. So I'm very happy to listen you, madam, in today's session. So thank you so much from the bottom of heart on behalf of the organizing committee members. I also thank the
you
chief
for having
organizer
me.
of the service, chief organizer of the International Conference, our ideal principal, Dr. M. Ambedkar sir. Especially thanks Dr. Kendre sir, Dr. Pagari sir, Dr. Swan Shukla sir, Chetan Kumar Meshram sir, Sham Suresh sir, and Dr. Giri sir for nicely discuss with the keynote speaker. And at last, I should not forget all those dear attendees. So thank you so much once again to you all. Now kindly request you all please fill the feedback link which is given in the chat box. So with the kind permission of Chief Advisor, I declare today's session is over. Thank you so much once again. Thank you, Meghna.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. It's great. I can leave now?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you.
You can leave, take us. Bye-bye. Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gopal sir.